Thanks for joining this call. And this is a very important topic. Obviously, we all work being practitioner, we work on so many things, and it's very difficult. How do you prioritize? And if you see post COVID, digital is the new norm, like right from UPI payment, right from Blinkit, Zepto, all grocery, like having a grocery in 10 minutes. I think that is a big, big buzzword. Any payment which goes only a digital payment, any financial instruments or investments, what you do, this is again based on the kind of identity what you do it. And everything, if you see like, okay, when you do KYC and all, your identity is very, very important. uh, when you join the company, identity is very important because all your access rights and everything is given based on the identity. And as the preventive measures are getting matured, uh, this because we want to use technology for business operations purpose or business strategy purpose, we can't have that prevention strategy, which is a traditional way of managing the security. That is no more acceptable now because we want to use technology, and now AI is going to further disrupt a lot. Zero trust, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years back, we were trying to learn about zero trust, how to implement, and now AI has come. So disruptions are going to continue. The use of technology is never going to stop. And using a tech and preventive mechanism, using a tech is inevitable. Use of AI is inevitable. Digital transformation adoption is very inevitable. Security landscape is changing. And the way we are being tracked as whether you're a customer or an employee or a partner, identity comes in the most center part of it. And there is a new buzzword which is going on right now. Like, okay, we have heard a lot for last 10 years. We have heard about data is a new oil, and now we started realizing that. Now there's another new buzzword which has started going on right now, and which I've heard many times in last 6 months. Identity is the new perimeter. So perimeter, as of now, we have always talked about the perimeter, firewall, defense in depth and everything. But if you see work from home and all, there is no perimeter, right? And now we are saying that, okay, with zero trust and then identity being center, identity is the new perimeter, right? So if you see, if identity is the new perimeter, because everything is based on access rights, it's based on identity, and then you're putting a zero trust. It's never need to know basis. It's a zero trust now. And now AI talks about beyond zero trust also, it has to be agile because your algorithms are learning, and then you have to learn how do you manage the identities also. So in such a transformational and dynamic world, how do we manage the identity? It's very, very most important part of it right now, and which I think we need to really start looking into this area now itself. 20 years back also this was there, but now it's much, much evolved than what we used to do 20 years back. Now, considering that, okay, I think we have a lot of esteemed speakers who are going to talk about it. So I'll not take more time on that. Just couple of things I want all the participants just to take note of this. Just be a little attentive because there are going to be quiz questions in between. There is a LinkedIn contest. Please, 3:30, we are going to track that. At 3:30, we are going to have cutoff. And whoever is the winner, obviously, there is going to be a giveaway, and which is our normal tradition, right? You all know about it. The third part is, if you have any question for any speaker, please type that into the chat, and then definitely Tim will come back to us. We will try to address as much as questions possible. And if not, afterwards, we will write down answers to all the questions which are being asked in that. And then definitely we will circulate those questions. Nitin, on behalf of your team, I'm committing that. Right. I hope you're okay with this. Yeah, great.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So these are few basic questions, and let us start on the main topic. As I said, like, okay, we have esteemed speakers, and the first speaker is Nitin Varma. We all know Nitin Varma, very, very well-known person, very vibrant person in the community. Nitin has joined Saviynt as Managing Director. Nitin will walk us through how Saviynt is helping organizations act globally and also in India to define how identity security with a converge intelligence platform, what Saviynt is. He will share insights into Savynt's vision, what is the real world use cases, and now how customers are achieving it. And this whole thing, what Nitin is going to talk about, not only about the product, but then what is important is, and which is he's going to cover is how customers has adopted that and how that has benefited them uh, in the whole the continuous changing world, how that is being benefited them, which will also be a learning for all of us. Yeah. So over to you, Nitin, and look forward to hear you and take a lot of takeaways.
Perfect. Thank you, Anuprita, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. So one, I don't know if I got that right while I'm sharing the presentation. So what I'll do is in between the presentation, some slides, we'll have char padav. We'll kind of play a KBC here, right? So we'll have 4 padavs here, right? And somewhere I'll ask a question so that we see, okay, anybody who answers on chat, pass the finger first, or somebody who answers the correct one. Vijay is here, who is our SME from Australia. He will decide who the winner is. So we'll have 4 questions, right, during the presentation. So, guys, I think just a request, pay attention here. And I'm sure I think this will be a worthwhile conversation. All right. Let me
Nitin,
start.
on a lighter side, are you going to
So,
allow
ma'am.
phone a friend?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Why not?
Okay. And phone a friend
Just
will
let me.
be from the community side, like Kumar or
Yeah,
Saviynt?
Kumar. Kumar is a friend here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's, you can start
Perfect.
your presentation.
Perfect. I hope you can see the screen because not many times I use Teams. So just want to be sure. You can see the presentation slide here. Just a
Yes.
confirmation, Vijay. All right, perfect.
Yes, yes.
Good. So, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. First thing, let me begin by saying this, that this is not a routine or a regular security update, but 6 months in this job, I just wanted to share my perspective, an important one, about where your control ends and where your exposure begins. I think Anuprita touched upon that a little bit, but I'll talk about this. The title of today's session is Zero Trust Begins with You. I know it kind of sounds very marketish, but believe you me, this is not just a marketing phrase, right? To me, it's a drift, it's a shift of accountability because identity today, who has the access to what, when, why, and how long is just not security team's concern, but today it's a boardroom priority. I'm sure everyone in this call today would agree with me that we are actually entering, no, not entering, we have entered an era where the bad guys, where the adversaries, they no longer break in, they actually log in today. Where every over entitled user, every unmonitored bot, and every forgotten access of a contractor or a vendor is a risk surface to us. An era where trust but verify has been replaced with never trust, always verify. And rightly so, because privilege abuse, credential abuse is the largest attack vector when it comes to breaches, right? And when you really think about this, right, about zero trust as a philosophy, as a framework, as a journey, whatever you might call it, it starts with one basic question. Are you in control of who is accessing what today? And if the answer is not an immediate yes, I'm sure we all know that there's some work to be done. So today I'm going to share 4 perspectives from my end, right? And this is just a perspective, more than happy to get your feedback over chat, so on and so forth, guys. It's a learning for us. It's a mutual learning session that we want to keep in here. 4 perspectives that I'd like to share. I think first, why identity today is the first and the last line of defense. Second, why the enterprise grade governance is failing on the face of modern complexity, and how large enterprises like yourself are re-architecting their privilege, their access, and the trust, not around static perimeters, but around dynamic identities. I think Anuprita mentioned about that. Last but not the least, we'll try and post some tough questions, try to change some conventional thought process, but most importantly, being selfish, we'll talk about how Savynt's comprehensive security platform is helping customers turn identity from vulnerability to competitive advantages. But before we talk about any product, any platform, right, or we talk about security, let's take a step back and talk something fundamental. Let's talk about reality, right? And the reality is most of the organizations today are managing identities on inherited foundation, legacy directories, siloed access tools, manual compliances, reactive governance, which are meant for an era which no longer exists today. As practitioners, as business guys, we talk so much about digital transformation. But rarely do we talk about identities transformation, which is imperative to support it or accelerate the digital journey for us. What do we see instead in reality? First, from an identity perspective, right? First, the whole JML, joiner, mover, leaver process takes about days, maybe weeks, maybe maybe months, right? It's a productivity loss. Second, a privilege account is still active, even though when not required, or even when the user has left the company. Security concern. The third, the access for a contractor or a vendor, right, is perpetual, often unmonitored. Security concern, right? Last but not the least, we kind of have this compliance exercises, which kind of check all the boxes, but really fail to face the real world risk. And when we talk about the role of a CISO or a CIO, right, like yourselves, I think today, as a business enabler, right, from a defender to an enabler or to a business transformer today, sorry, we are looking at three things. How do we balance between productivity, security, and compliances? Right? So when we really talk about identity transformation, and this is my perspective, guys, happy to get some more perspective from you over chat on this one. When we talk about identity transformation, I think we need to ask some tough questions or some questions to ourselves as we devise the transformation of identity, right? Because often the greatest threat is often in unasked questions. These are some questions when you look at this, right? How are you navigating risk from identities you don't own, from vendors, partners, right? How many accounts in your ecosystem haven't been reviewed for 6 months? Most importantly, how fast do you open or close the right doors when an employee join, move, or leave? If regulators and auditors walked in today, how confident would you be? And this is an important slide, guys. This is the para one. I'm just giving you a hint, right? Do you have the real-time visibility into every identity in your enterprise, whether it's human, whether it's machine, whether it's vendor, at the exact moment? And last but not the least, are your most privileged accounts are your biggest vulnerability? When you look at these questions, and there could be more from your end, right? When you look at these questions, these are not hypothetical questions. These are operational, these are regulatory, these are reputational questions that demand, and I'm using this word demand, executive visibility and actions. So in the slides ahead, we'll not only address these questions, we'll also demonstrate how enterprises are already answering them with measurable impact. So like I said, right, this was the first padav. And let me ask a quick question to everyone. Okay, what are the questions that you look at? I mentioned 8. I'm not sure how many people were paying attention to that. How many, if you can write, fastest fingers first here, and for 1,000 rupees voucher, what are the things that you need to look at, question that you need to ask when you're looking at identity transformation? I'll give you 45 seconds exactly to put in your answer on chat. We just finished that slide. Okay, I hope we'll get some answers on chat. I can't see that, so I don't want to take a risk. It's so. All right, let's see. Vijay, do we have some
Ravi
answers or no?
Sharma. We've got Ravi Sharma asking privileged access, and we've got Vijay Kumar Talreja asking how many privileged users do you have?
All right.
It's a the first one wasn't a question. Second one is a question. Fastest fingers first. I would actually give Vijay Kumar Talreja the benefit of the doubt as our first winner.
Perfecto. All right, let's move ahead. Congratulations, Vijay. Ravi, right? It was Ravi.
Vijay Kumar Talreja.
Okay, now I know the biasism. Vijay Chaudhary, Vijay Talreja, why this winner was selected. But anyways, let's move ahead. Let's shift the focus, guys, I think to what's happening in our country today, right? What's happening in India, because what's happening here is actually unprecedented. right? There is a digital boom that we all are witnessing in our country. But what we are also witnessing is the access risk, right? Which is expanding alongside, often silently. When you really look at this, I think Anuprita again touched upon that very briefly, right? Every digital entry point is an identity waiting to be exploited, right? And when you just touch upon the digital story of India, it's actually mesmerizing to me. And when you compare what's happening on the security side, we have some work to be done. If data have to believe, and not go through everything, but if the data have to believe, 20% of the contribution to our GDP will come from the India's digital economy by 29. But the enterprise security is still not keeping up pace. This is my perspective, guys. I could be wrong. Happy to be corrected, right? When you look at the internet inclusion, the smartphone usage, 650 million plus, right? Smartphones are being used here right now. 10 billion UPI every month, largest in the world, which basically says every app and every tap and every API is an access point for us today. Enterprises today are spending 2x more on digital than the core technology. Yet identity, and I can say this very confidently because in the last 6 months of my job, I've been meeting many CXOs, right? Identity security remains an afterthought right now, right? There are about 2.4 offline users who'll come every second between 25 to 29, right? Identity, like I said, is a potential vulnerability, right? 70% of the workload in India will be cloud native by this year end, right? Traditional perimeter security, like Anuprita mentioned, will not cut it anymore, right? So what we are seeing here is, and I think to me, this is not digital adoption, but this is digital explosion. And every identity is a potential breach today. But guess what? The digital access or the identity today is kind of under siege, if I may say that, in this country, and making headlines for all the wrong reasons, right? This is a 24 report by SAARC in terms of how many breaches happened, how much did we pay, I'll not go through it, how many malwares were detected. But the real headline happens here, right? 93% of the Indian organization faced an identity breach. They experienced two or more identity related breaches, right? Either it was a credential abuse, employee credential abuse, or a bot, like you heard in Star Health, right? It was a bot that was compromised. So we are seeing that identity is making headlines for all the wrong reasons right now, right? And the reason, what I mentioned earlier, what's happening on the digital journey vis-a-vis how we are taking care of how we're thinking about identity. But when you really think about this, why this is happening, again, I think I'd like to share my perspective, right? Today, when we look at, there is an explosion of identities everywhere, right? Everyone is an identity, everything is an identity, everywhere there's an identity. Identity is not a directory anymore. It's a dynamic distributed risk surface. Enterprises today are managing not hundreds, not thousands, but millions of identities, depending on the size of an organization. And it's just not employees, it's contractors, it's vendors, it's bots, it's APIs, it's cloud workloads, it's microservices. Each one of them with its own entitlement, its own risk profile, and its own potential for misuse, right? And the problem is not this, that so many identities are there. The problem starts here that each of these identities interacts across system, the on-premise with cloud, the cloud with SaaS, creating an increasing complex web of access, right? And without governance, you can see the picture here, right? It's kind of looks like a web right now, right? Where the way they interact with each other in different environments. But without governance, this web becomes a trap. And this is what we call as identity sprawl, and it is growing exponentially. So in order to protect enterprises today, you need to govern every identity across every environment and every moment, which is called continuous monitoring. This is what I think the SEBI new circulars also say that. Now, to me, this is the definition of scale. And this is the new definition of exposure that I talked about in my earlier slide, right? And not that, I think whenever I've gone to CISOs and met them in the last 6 months, right? I said, what are you doing about identity? Oh, we have an IDAM solution, right? And I was new to identity, to be very honest here, and very transparent here, right? I said, what is IDAM? What do you mean by IDAM? Everybody gave me a different answer. So I wanted to take this opportunity. This slide was not supposed to be there, the next slide, which I'm showing it. But then I said, okay, let me ask, and maybe I'll learn something more from you guys, right? So if I had to, and everybody kind of gave a different perspective. Now, if I had to ask this, intelligent gentry out there on this call, what are the building blocks? Just mention the building blocks, right, of an IDAM as per your understanding. What would that be? This is the second padav, guys, and this is for 5,000, right, voucher. What do you think are just the building blocks of an IDAM when you say IDAM? Can we do that? I give you about a minute to answer this question. All right, time starts now. I wish I could get that KBC light here.
Well,
Guys,
we've already
I'm
got
just trying to learn from you.
got a
Yeah.
response in there.
Wait, time नहीं हुआ है, रुक जा अभी.
अच्छा, ठीक है.
2 seconds, 1 second. Here you go. Yep. Yeah, Vijay.
We got
Please.
an enthralling response in there. I would pick our winner as Mr. Nitin Barde. Started off the first question highlighting IDAM has two things. One is IGA, the other is IAM, and organizations can check and implement this as per their requirement.
Perfect. Okay, that's the closest one, right? So it's a different learning for me again, because like I said, everybody has given me a different answer, and I put one answer, right? And happy to be corrected again. Okay, so Nitin, Vijay, two winners, both on Spotlight, Vijay and Nitin. Okay, your selection is good. Is it that we only got one answer, Vijay, here?
No. We've got a lot of answers and a lot of right answers in there as well. We've got answers around, right access controls, regular reviews, role definitions. We've got authentication, authorization, authorization and authentication, the building blocks, user management. So quite a lot.
Perfect. Okay. You're the judge, so you gave it to Nitin. Thanks, Nitin. Congratulations. I'll move ahead. Now, I'll probably tell you my understanding of IDAM, guys, right? And happy to have your comments on chat if there's something more or something wrong here, right? So as for me, right, and this is my revolution, my learning in the last 6 months in here, two components, right? IDAM, identity management, access management. Many of you said that, right? Access management is all about single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. Almost 70-80% of the organizations today kind of have this. This is more of a commodity from Ping, Duo, Okta, whatever it is, right? It's more of a commodity now. We're going to focus about identity management, right? What is that all about, right? So one, identity management, when you talk about this is, I'll just rush through this. Privilege identity. I think somebody mentioned that, like we just said, it's all about privilege identity, lifecycle management, credential management, right? Just-in-time access, new buzzword again, right? Session recording, so on and so forth. Then there is standard identity, which is human, which is external, which is contractor vendors, and machine, the non-human identities. In that, you have identity administration, which is, I think somebody mentioned, user lifecycle management. It's all about provisioning, deprovisioning, joiner, mover, leaver that I mentioned earlier, right? Then there is identity governance. I think somebody said, which I just mentioned that, which is all about access request, review, approval, certification, role management, policy enforcement, SOD, so on and so forth, role-based access control, right? And so on and so forth. Then there is this app governance, which we call as GRC as well, app governance, right? Which is all about your business critical, many organizations use for their business critical environment only, right? Applications only like SAP or Oracle, which is all about, I think, SOD simulation, fine-grained visibility, segregation of duties, right? Mitigation control framework, entitlements, so on and so forth, right? So this is what, this is what I believe, right? The IDAM architecture is. I think many of you would have meant that because of the lack of time, you couldn't have written that. But this is what I feel IDAM stands today. And when you really think of this, right, there's so many tools, so many layers that IDAM has when somebody says this, right? And I'll not be surprised, and I'm sure about this, right? The 70% of the large enterprises today, right, use multiple identity solutions across IGA, across PAM, SSO, MFA, app access management, so on and so forth, right? But here's the problem. Most enterprises are still operating in fragments. Now, fragmentation in identity is no longer just inefficient, but it's kind of dangerous. I'll not talk about the stats here. It's for you to consume, right? The fragmented identity infrastructure doesn't scale. It actually fractures, and the attackers are already exploiting the tracks. And no matter why, I think it was very evident when I said 92% of the Indian organizations have witnessed an identity breach in their environment. right? This fragmentation basically creates four things, as per me. First one is blind spots, manual workarounds, inconsistent policy informant, and most important, exploitable delays in response. Uh, So everything that we have discussed, guys, so far, I was talking about like the pain areas, what's happening, what we are seeing, right? What IDAM is, everything that we have discussed so far, whether it's identity sprawl or the privilege sprawl, broken processes, excess delays, and fragmented governance, or everything can be traced back to one root cause, which is disconnected identity systems. So enough of problems. Let's now shift from problem space to solution. Let's shift to Saviynt in here, right? Which is the solution we're going to talk about today, right? So from fragmentation to unification, Saviynt is today the identity imperative for enterprises, right? It's the most comprehensive cloud native identity platform purpose built to govern every user, every machine, every application, and every privilege. This is just not, and I've worked in all platform companies earlier, right? This is just not another platform or an identity product. To me, this is your enterprise identity fabric required to accelerate and support your digital transformation journey. And after decades, and I'll talk about that in my subsequent slide, after decades of siloed of product, Saviynt brings everything together, which was kept in siloed for decades now, right? Now in security, we have a famous saying that not one tool does everything, but there is one cloud that brings everything together. So we'll talk about the Saviynt Identity Cloud, that how is it helping the customers to from a fragmented identity infra to basically unifying it in one platform in here and creating that identity framework in your enterprise, right? So we have this identity cloud, and we'll talk about that, right? But before I say anything about this, right, there just I think most important outcome, if I may say that, it gives the enterprises, it gives our customers, right, a balance between productivity, security, and compliance. If you remember, this is what I spoke about, right? What are the CISOs looking at, or the CIOs, or the business leader like yourself are looking at? They're looking at the balance between productivity, security, and compliances. So, talking about this, the Saviynt Identity Cloud is a comprehensive platform designed to manage and protect a wide range of identities, whether it's be human identity or internal identity, right? Employees, whether it's be external identities, contractors or vendors, right? Or a service provider, or non-human machine identities, bots, service accounts, so on and so forth, right? So in that way, we are able to give you a very comprehensive identity governance to all our customers here. The second one we want to touch upon it, it gives you a converged experience. And what I really mean by that is it gives you a single interface so that you reduce or eradicate the need to shift console for context, right? Now, one thing which is very important here is we are not a tool chain integrator. And what I really mean by that is we don't go about and acquire companies and try to stitch the whole story together, right? Everything that I will be able to, I'll be showing that to you about Saviynt platform is built grounds up. Because if there is one philosophy, one culture that Saviynt depends on or aligns with, every employee for that matter, is innovation. Everything that I'm talking about this platform is built grounds up by Saviynt. There is no acquisition and then trying to retrofit that, right? So you'll have a single interface for all the modules that I'm going to talk about. Then it offers you Savvy. Savvy is the short form of Saviynt, which is a Gen AI analyst of this platform, which makes the platform much more intuitive to manage and monitor, right? And then you have integration with all the chatbots like your Teams, or like your Slacks, so as to create integrated identity workflows in here, right? Now let's talk about the capability. What are the comprehensive capability that this platform has to offer to all the enterprises? I think somebody already said that. Identity governance and administration, not only for the employees, but for the machine identity as well, right? External identity, contractors, right? Then we have the application access governance, like I think the fine grained visibility or the SOD, the segregation of duties, like I mentioned around SAP and Oracle. Now, one differentiator here today is in the application access governance, we are not confining only to SAP and Oracle, but it is applicable for all the cross application that you might have in your environment. For some, we might have an out-of-box connector, but for some, it's very, very easy without getting into the JavaScripting coding. It's very easy to build any connectors. So we are able to offer you application access governance for all the cross application that you might have in your environment today. Right. Then it's the identity security posture management. This is something that is a game changer, right, for Saviynt and for the industry, because this is the most comprehensive identity security posture management that the industry has witnessed ever. We kind of launched this on 29th of April in RSA, and already on that day, G Healthcare as a customer was there as an external case study who used us during the beta thing. It kind of gives you obviously the security alerts and all, but it gives you the visibility of all the applications in your environment. And unlike any SPM, security posture management, that we have seen in the industry, it also remediates any risky things or a risky event that might come in while having that visibility in here. Right? Then you have the privilege access management, or the just-in-time access, right, which is a part of PAM today, right, which not only manages the hardware like your routers or database, but it also kind of looks at all the applications as well. So these are the different modules that you have in the platform, right, making it a very robust identity platform for our customers, right? And guess what? I think everything here in this module has been powered something called intelligent recommendation, right? Which is an AI led or AI based, right? Which kind of helps every module and our customers, right, to make great decisions. It kind of embeds automation, because when you're talking about a compliance or a certification, a campaign that happens, it's a very manual task. It's a very long task for everybody to approve, right, in their team what access they should have and they should not, right? It kind of tells you, right, looking at the behavior and the different attributes that we kind of gather, catering to about 600 plus customers globally, right, which are the risky profile, which should not be approved, and which are the good profile that we can go ahead and approve that. It kind of like that's why I said it kind of helps you to take decisions, effective decisions, and also embeds automation when it comes to access and the request in here, right? It was built with security by design concept, right, with a security first approach. And why do I say that? And this is a unique feature, right? Because we are talking about identity, our platform ensures tenant isolation and privacy, providing each customer with a dedicated environment for their data and operation, right? This platform can be extended, but it basically means that DevOps, the application guys, and other vendors can resolve their applications to our platform in here. And also, last but not the least, it kind of integrates to your existing investment like a Yuba or a SIM to kind of create and help you create that entire security framework in your environment. So this today, when you look at this, right, Saviynt Identity Platform is built to provide a secure, scalable, and comprehensive solution for managing identity across the diverse environment. Like I mentioned earlier, the identities are present everywhere in every environment. So this kind of helps you not only to simplify identity management, but also empower organization to address complex security challenges with confidence. Having said that, I will just put in one slide in here about why customers choose Saviynt, right? And I think I will not talk about right the different features and blah blah blah, but the customers, especially operating under intense regulatory, operational, or reputational pressure, choose Saviynt not because we claim to be the most popular platform. It's because we solve the hardest of the problem in the most complex environment consistently, at scale, and with clarity. Our customers come to us when identity becomes too complex to be managed by fragmented tools, when privileged access becomes too risky to leave unmonitored, and when compliance becomes too costly to operate manually. And most importantly, they stay with us because we deliver measurable outcomes, measurable business aligned outcomes, and we do it with urgency and partnership. Yes, we do consolidate tools, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to extend to you the strategic control. right? Enterprises that work with Saviynt experience a shift, and I've seen that personally in here, right? I've seen a shift from reactive to predictive, from audit fatigue to compliance by design, and from fragmented access models to policy-driven and intelligence governance, right? I really wanted to ask a question, but I just have about 2 minutes left. Anuprita, can I extend by 2 minutes here? Can I take the liberty of asking one question?
Sure. See,
All
if
right.
you're giving the reward, is fine.
Yeah, this is
To
a
my
big one then.
community,
This
if you're
is
giving reward, very good.
okay. So I think this is gone past 2 slides. A question for 5,000, right? And you cannot do phone a friend for this one. What are the different modules of Saviynt security platform? I give you about 45 seconds. And in that 45 seconds, I'll probably rush or skip one slide as well. Ten, 8, 7, 4, 2. All right, Mr. Vijay.
Yes, we've got a few responses in there. Some quite close, some quite parallel. I would select Shirish Mahajan as our winner for this. He has responded with IGA, PAM, AG, and EIM. It was a close call, but I will select Shirish for this.
Congratulations, Shirish. I'm not sure people who didn't answer, they were looking at the slide. So this is one thing which I'll not waste time on. Where are we entrenched? Which all vertical, right? What do we do for them? But I'll jump onto a very important slide because whatever I can speak, if the customer doesn't get outcomes and they're not happy, right? I think it doesn't matter. It's all futile effort. So I just wanted to kind of just give you a glimpse of our, not all the 600 customers that we have across different verticals, but what are the benefits or the outcomes some of the customers, right, have got by engaging or deploying Saviynt security platform in here, right? So I couldn't have put in everything. Customers like Cigna, the name you will not find in here, the biggest in insurance, or in HCA, again, biggest in the healthcare side in the US, Qantas or American Airlines, recent customers, right? And guess what? I think the biggest organization in India today, as we speak, there is an implementation that is already in progress of Saviynt. You guys are smart to guess which organization I'm talking about. It's the largest one in India, right? So I think we kind of address all the verticals. We kind of deliver outcomes to all the customers. Just naming few, right? Right. Somebody who kind of did the birthright access provisioning. I think Anuprita mentioned about the access thing, right? From 10 days to an hour. That's the benefit. That's the productivity gain that we kind of offer to our customers. Lotus in Thailand, which is a big retail giant, 60K users, right? We kind of did that access in about a day's time across 2 countries, right? On the seniors health, about 245,000, right? We kind of did automated the whole change request time that seniors face as a problem, the certification task. We kind of just automated with our intelligent recommendation. In the education space as well, about 57,000, we kind of brought down the access request to 20 minutes, from 48 hours to about 20 minutes. That's the kind of productivity gain that we offer. And I think I mentioned about how productivity is important to CISOs and leaders like you today. IBM, one of the biggest customers for us, about 600K or 800K plus users. We kind of manage some 12,000 applications for them. This is an external case study for us, external user for us, and happy customer. In spite of having his own product, I think he still chose to go with Saviynt in here. Right. BT again, I think for access management, for automation, for PAM, they are using our stuff in here. So these are the customers, right, who were happy to kind of come to the industry and talk about their experience with Saviynt. We've been validated by industry leaders. We've been endorsed by the analysts, by customers, right? We've been validated by the regulators. So when you look at the analysts, different like Gartner, KuppingerCole, Forrester, EMA, IDC, or Gartner Peer Insights, I think they mark us and multiple products of ours in the leaders or as the leaders in here. In fact, what I think most happy about to see and witness here is 4 consecutive years, right? We were the voice of the customer, right? From 21 to 24. The 25 report has not been published yet, but for 4 consecutive years, we were the voice of the customer. And this is something that really means a lot to any company, right? Who delivers services. India, I think it's a strong, I think from being a delivery hub, it's a strategic powerhouse. Not take much time. We have about 700 global talent pool with different functions based out of Bangalore, right? Engineering, product management, expert services, customer success, InfoSec. So we have a global CISO sitting right outside, right from Bangalore here. And if there is a need, whenever you think, I think we can talk and we can host you in our Bangalore office, right? So this is what the investment that we have done in India. So last thing, we said we'll answer the unasked question. Quickly, I think we will kind of touch upon that. These were the questions that I asked you when you're looking at identity transformation, right? And how does Saviynt go about answering each one of them for our customers to kind of sketch, transform identity from a mere vulnerability, to competitive advantages. Ting, ting. Yeah, it is, right? This is something that we asked you. Happy to, like I said, happy to get more questions, more from your experience in your environment as you go about transforming identity in your environment. Thank you so much, guys. I was like 3 minutes more than the time, and I'll request if you can just grant 3 more minutes from the busy schedule for this session because we kind of extended that up. But thank you so much. It was totally a pleasure talking to you and getting, I think, the participation that we got in the last 30 minutes or so. Thank you so much. Anuprita, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nitin. And guys, picture to abhi baki hai because our practitioner friend is going to share his own knowledge. So I'd like to invite. Thank you, Nitin, for this. I think it was very interesting session, and I had my own learning. I have taken my notes on this, and I'm sure we will collate information, questions from everyone, and then circulate it later. Yeah.
Sure.
So the next, as I said, like, okay, we have a session on the actual hands-on experience, like what it could be, and then what was the experience. I'd like to invite Mr. Kumar Krishnamurthy Venkateswaran. He's the group head, information technology and chief information officer at Narayan Health. Just to introduce, I think the huge 2 decades of introduction doesn't come in the words, but I'll try to do it justice, whatever is best possible, Kumar, and just please, please apologize if I miss out something. Kumar is head of information technology at Narayan Health for over 2 decades of technology experience, ranging from strategy to execution across various domains and technology and industry verticals. He holds a bachelor degree from University of Madras and execution education and general management from IIM Bangalore. He has significant, obviously 2 decades, which is like, okay, you have seen the whole transformation, right? Need to know, even not having anything to need to know, and then now zero trust, and now we are talking about AI and identity as the new perimeter. So I'm sure your existing experience will definitely help add value to this whole transformation. He has significant experience in strategic enterprise architecture, digital strategies, IT strategy and transformation, technology and innovation. I'm sure 2 decades innovation is must. Otherwise, we can't remain in this in this whole world actually. And information security, which is a completely different, right? Innovation, technology innovation, digital strategy and information security, business service management, IT service. I think nothing is left, Kumar, right? Is there anything you have left for anyone else?
I don't know.
So,
I can say that been there, seen it, done it. At least with all humility, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that really says from your profile, and obviously, people know, so many people know you, and I think whoever has worked with you or know you will definitely resonate with that. Great.
Sure.
So,
Thanks.
and before this, he was also with PwC as director with PwC for cloud computing practice. So you have seen from on-prem to cloud and from no identity to identity only. I think it's pretty good. And now Narayana Health, right? I mean, it's a completely different consulting, health, and then different technology industries. And I was just doing a little bit of research on Narayana Health also. Like, okay, they are 4,500 plus crore of business, and 24 has hospitals across India and some CT chem in Ireland. I'll be happy to have my treatment there. I think Ireland will be very good if Narayana Health sponsors that. And the best part what I saw is they have carried 1,200 robo-assisted surgeries, right? So definitely, because now if you see the traditional doctors, now IoT has become a most important factor. We have seen since at least 2007 onwards, due to WannaCry, we have seen health industry. Even before that, it might be, but maybe I have noted since 2017, WannaCry, NHS was down for 10 days, 15 days. And now everything is only on the technology, right? And you're making use of IoT, robots. It's a completely different world, right,
Yeah,
Kumar?
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I'm
Yeah,
sure being technology and security, you might be facing a lot of challenges. So just wanted to know and curious to know, like, okay, what are your current challenges right now?
no, I think, see, the challenges is today we are, Narayana Health is one of the well-respected and well-renowned, healthcare chains in India. We have, we are both a provider as well as a payer also, which means that we operate close to 20 hospitals and clinics and heart centers in India, around 20 clinics and heart centers in India. We also have started insurance operations, so we are a registered health insurance
Okay.
company. And not only in India, but in Cayman Islands, we run a couple of hospitals. In Cayman Islands, it's a very small island with around 80,000 population, and we are also an insurance player there. But not only this, we are also a supply chain company. We buy medicines, consumables, and we distribute it to our hospitals. And then we also are a health tech company also. Which is basically we build our own platforms. We have a health information platform. We are a software company also. So we build our own health information platform. We also have an advanced analytics and an AI platform. So the reason that I'm saying this is we have covered the maybe the entire spectrum of the healthcare industry. Maybe minus we are not a biomedical equipment manufacturer, but then, or we are not a pharma company, but then pretty much other areas we have pretty much covered. But this also um, the risk of from a security standpoint is not only from a sectoral standpoint, but it's also from a cross-sector standpoint also, right? Because I'm both,
Okay.
having an insurance company, I'm part of BFSI, but I'm also part of the provider also. So when you talk of challenges today, right? Challenges is one is we are we are spread out across India. Right, we have every format that is actually there from super large hospitals to large hospitals to small hospitals that are actually there. We have clinics, so which means that there are multiple entry points and exit points that are there. Um, the data that that we actually handle is sensitive personal data or information to ensure that there is appropriate consent mechanisms. There are ensuring that appropriate access controls, appropriate identity controls, appropriate um, privileges are basically set at various levels so that we are able to regulate this in a better manner. So the access to data becomes very important because we are custodians of the data and not owners of the data. And the third challenge is the ever-growing threat landscape, right? Because today, not a day goes past by where we don't hear anything about ransomware or malware. So every time there are new strains, there are countless ways to attack. So as a organization, I'm not just a provider, right? We are a payer, we are a provider, we do integrated care, we do health tech, then we do supply chain. How do we ensure that we keep our we are able to manage our risk better, which means that we also have to take, we also have to monitor the environment, appropriately and ensure that attack doesn't happen, right? So that's always a constant challenge. That is always a war that we have to win every single day, every single minute, right? So those are some of the, that's the overview of Narayana Health and the challenges, the top three challenges that that I deal with, from a organization standpoint.
It's very interesting, right? I mean, because you mentioned about, Narayana Health is the custodian. You're also a service provider, and very diversified businesses, right? And again, from manufacturing to providing services, having identity, you mentioned about maintaining the data, and also IoT devices, etc. So you will have different types of identities, right? So, I mean, identity is one part, and then this is not a tech company. It's a medical practitioner company, right? I mean, so they don't understand tech very well. Now, among so many other issues perspective, you mentioned about not only ransomware, but maintaining the confidential data, etc. So maybe this would have been over a period of time, like, but how did you face this problem of identity? Like, on what basis? Like today, if I have to think about it, this is also like, okay, you have multiple things, and then how do you prioritize? And how did identity become a priority for you? Obviously, you must have seen the problem and then shortlisted this to address this point.
No, I think it's not, to correct you on that point of we are not a tech company. I think every company is now a tech company, or every company
I
is now
agree.
become a digital company, right? And if you see in medicine, or especially in the provider space, the robotic surgery that we are talking about, the CT MRI machines that we are talking, all the latest inventions from an equipment standpoint, which will help us to do minimally invasive or bloodless, surgeries or any other procedures or any other interventions for that matter. There is a huge, role of technology in this space, right? Even, you have some of the best gadgets, the best tech that is actually, deployed in operation theaters and various parts of the hospital. So, but then the software also plays a large part in powering the entire, enterprise over here to deliver that highly efficient services that patients would basically expect, right? Because patients come here with, or our customers basically come with, with problems, right? And we are here to solve those problems, right? So, so tech plays a very major part, right? Now, where does identity basically fit in, right? Identity is, as per me, identity is the core of everything, right? So when you talk of zero trust or anything, identity becomes the basic premise to which your security itself needs to be built. Either we talk of identity of the user, or we talk identity of the machine that basically is connected to a network, right? I think is the person who he professes to be, or who he claims to be, or is the machine really the machine which claims to be, right? And whether it has been authenticated, whether it has the right mechanism for authentication and right exchange, of data, right? I think that's what basic. So so it goes invariably saying, invariably, without a say, right? Identity becomes the core of all these operations. Now, we have understood this, challenge, of, how do we harmonize all this? How do we centralize all this? Because we know that when we have these many companies, when we have these many, and majority of the staff that we actually have in the hospitals is not clinical staff. We deal with nursing, paramedical, doctors, which are basically, which constitute 65 to 70% of the workforce. The remaining 30% of the workforce are the administrative workforce, right? So when we are dealing with all these, then how do we ensure that the identity doesn't get compromised? So I told you about the sector. The sector itself deals with, say, everything that we touch is sensitive personal data or information. Then the first thing that we have to address is how do we ensure that the identity of the user is protected? How securely they can actually authenticate? How do you ensure that we validate these identities on a periodic basis? How do you ensure that we are able to segregate the duties of all these people in a manner in which there is a maker checker that is actually present? How do you ensure that we frequently validate all this to ensure that we are able to do this in a much more automated manner. Now, that is from a user standpoint. From the machine standpoint or a equipment standpoint, are these authorized machines? Is there should they communicate in this particular network? Should it basically communicate to other machines? How does the machine gets authenticated? Should it get authenticated every single time? Now that becomes a question to answer, right? So I think from there we say that, okay, now we take an identity and then we then planned around saying that, okay, then how do we provision identities, the administration part? How do we govern these identities? How do we ensure that something like a single sign-on is basically done? How do you ensure that a privileged identities are basically handled, right? So there are various identities. It is not just from a user standpoint, and there are some privileged identities that are actually there, privileged roles that are actually there. How do we address all these facets? Is where the entire identity management program itself basically comes into existence.
Great. I'm sorry, Kumar. What I meant is like, because I read about Narayana Health and it is formed by the doctors, and therefore I was talking about, and you also mentioned about, so these are tech companies, but there are a lot of users who are non-tech and then dealing in that and having implementation and adoption and that. That is what I meant, but I think you have clarified this.
Yeah, sure.
And it's really complex because identity for you is not only a human or employee or customer or patient or something, but it's human plus machines, right? So it makes a little more complex actually. Yeah. And you also mentioned about the governance part, like, okay, how do you govern everything? How do you do a single sign-on? And then so when you are dealing with this, because you'll have different types of uh, tech systems and business solutions, and you talked about consolidation, harmonization, and then conversions. So did you implement automation somewhere? Like, because otherwise it becomes point in time
Yeah,
and then you have a disconnected things, right? So
sure.
did you also adopt the automation in this whole governance part?
Yeah, before automation, right? I think first we did a lot of things manually because then it will actually help us to understand, what is the scope, what is the um, complexity of work that is actually involved. So now, when we want to provision an ID, right, it is not just about creating an ID. Then how do you ensure that it is tagged to an email plan? How much time does it basically? So the time taken for identity creation from an administration standpoint. Now, from a governance standpoint, we have to do from a compliance standpoint, we have to do monthly role privilege reviews or monthly user level reviews, quarterly role privilege campaigns that we have to do. We have to verify whether segregation of duties is done, whether we have ensured that the maker checker basically works. So we did a lot of things manually. And now when we did manually, we knew a lot of how these were actually playing out, how much time was actually how much time it basically took, what was the overall cycle time involved in this entire thing. And then we hunted for a tool, and that's when we landed up with Saviynt. And with Saviynt, when we started implementing, we started with identity administration because we knew that whatever the challenges in manual, and we might have had a maybe a little more primitive system where we had automated certain identities. But now with Saviynt, it gave us provisioning of identities not only to one entity, it can basically do multi-domain also, right? So several different legal entities are there. So provisioning can actually happen, deprovisioning can actually happen, right? And that can pretty much happen in real time, right? And you can also do just-in-time access, so which we were never had before. So a lot of things we had to do manual. But then we also saw things from a self-service standpoint today for requesting for a VPN access, today for requesting any other services that are actually there. We can go to the self-service portal and provision all these. User can actually request this couple of levels of approval plus security approval will basically get this entire thing provisioned. Now, we were able to appreciate the benefit of administration purely because we had done it manually. We measured the cycle time and we were now able to, do this. Now, when we talk about the governance part of it, how do we ensure that, we structure these campaigns? How should the integration basically work? What are different roles and privileges that we have to carve out? How did the provisioning happen? When do you require a single level approval versus a double level approval, right? So those things we had actually planned out and automated this through Saviynt, through the identity governance module. And not only this, the identity governance module will also give you a scoring of, who all has conflicting privileges. And for
Oh,
certain
okay.
things, you would have definitely given conflicting privileges because there might be only one person who will be doing both at work. But then it is very important to have these things basically recorded as part of your system, right? So Saviynt actually helps us to manage our identities from an administration standpoint, provisioning, deprovisioning, and to all the related systems. And then identity governance, once it is provisioned, how do we then manage these IDs? How do you manage the life cycle? How do you manage these roles? Is where Saviynt plays a very huge part in this.
I think that's a great insight, Kumar. Just one, because being practitioner, what happens is, but so as I understand from your whole brief is like, okay, Saviynt is a platform which is helping you to manage provision, deprovisioning, also finding out what are the unusual behavior, like, okay, from an access rights perspective, and then from a conflict of interest perspective, ad hoc. I think I can just go on. I don't want to, I'm not selling, but these are the important from a domain perspective. It's very important. And being a practitioner, it's very important to understand, like, okay, see, tool is one vehicle, right? And how do you get best out of that vehicle? So when you implemented this, okay, how did you define, and that is one of the thing which on one of the group on our group we were talking about, how do we define, like, okay, from this domain what we wanted, and then how do you measure, okay, what we have achieved it, right? So how do you see, like, okay, what kind of output what you have got it after this implementation? Like, Saviynt is one of the two, but then identity domain is very, very important, right? As you have mentioned. How
So
do
when
we
you
measure this?
No, I think one is measure is the time taken to so when you talk of identity administration, right? The identity administration process, how much time does it take to provision a single identity, right? And basically, the not only identity, creating an identity in the directory, but then provisioning, assigning it appropriate plans or giving it appropriate birthright IDs, or access also. So if you have been doing the manual way and it takes 2 to 3 hours, now not only this, we are not going to get just one request, right? We have people joining, like nursing and all, they might join 50 people, 75 people at one instance. So imagine the amount of cumulative time that would basically be. So it's a huge efficiency improvement. Now, if I basically have 4 or 5 people and basically start doing this, is very error prone. And in identity, if some error is basically there, it basically results, it can basically have much more disaster effects, right? So the efficiency is one part, but the very thing of not doing this right has also a even more disastrous effect, because if you assign it incorrect privilege, right? I think that also, we basically see that, right? Because if that basically results into into a ransomware, or if it comes into some data exfiltration, I don't think, that, I don't think there is a way to even quantify that, because it is a huge business risk over there. Now, once you basically measure these times and measure these efficiency improvements when compared, from your manual base, when you get into the governance piece, how can you structure these campaigns and roll out these campaigns from a governance standpoint, right? How do you run these campaigns? And the key thing about campaigns is you can't run a campaign forever, right? Then if you run a campaign for governance and for role privilege validation, do you basically have all your IDs basically validated? Are people basically line managers validating their IDs in the next 14 days or something like that? Now, you don't have to wait for 45 days. From 45 days or 50 days, now if the entire cycle time is reduced to 15 days, and that itself is a huge, what do you say, security validation, if I may put it that way. One is from an efficiency standpoint. People do it online. It is much more easier. People can understand how the roles are basically structured, who gets what roles. But it's also the fact that, from a security standpoint, if there was any unauthorized access, it would have immediately got flagged and it would have got pulled out, right? If there is maker-shaker violation, I think that itself is a huge benefit, right? And even if there is a maker-shaker violation that you can still go back and say that, do your analysis and say, what was the consequences of something like that? So you don't have to wait for 45 days, but you can know it at a much, much, much faster rate. I think so. Those are some of the benefits of using these kind of systems here.
Yeah, I think you said it like, okay, it's not only like how do you, so which is one is speed and second is accuracy and convenience also from user perspective, because if it takes let's say 2 hours and then 75 will take more time. I think pretty good, Kumar. I think I was a little greedy and I know I have overshoot the time, but I was really greedy to take your experience because your first-hand experience will be definitely beneficial from the community perspective. And therefore, I overshoot and I really want to listen more to you and take more inputs from you. I think thank you so much for joining us and share your experiences. Uh, and now, thank you so much, everyone, for really keeping the patience and listening to Kumar as well as Nitin. So much, Kumar, to come forward and share your experiences. Thank you so much, Nitin, Atul, and then whole Saviynt team for this. First of all, thank you so much to my all friends, who has taken out time on Thursday to come forward and join the session. And I'm sure, like me, you're going to have takeaways. I wanted to conclude my takeaways on this, but then I think we are short of time, and then my team is going to shoot me on this. And you guys are also going to shoot me in different forums. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kumar, Nitin, Atul, my all dear friends who has
Thank you.
joined, Kumar, and my backend team who has managed the session, and look forward for more such good sessions in future too. Thank you so much and see you. Bye.
Thank you once again.